It's almost always Friday night when I see another comic creator coming on to explain themselves, but you do not have to adjust your calendar, your watch, or your dial. We're coming on a Thursday, 3:30, because that was when we could talk to Pat Shand, and when we can talk to Pat Shand, we talk to Pat Shand. Pat, how are you this Thursday afternoon?
I'm good. You can see over my shoulder. I'm packing books, shipping books still. Kickstarter's a grind, and I'm enjoying it, man.
Which campaign is it that you're fulfilling?
That one's cheeky, and then
Mhm.
I got Prison Witch waiting in the wings as soon as that's gonna go, and so that's probably gonna start Saturday when cheeky wraps, and then Cerulean Dreams will probably begin overlap with Prison Witch a bit, or begin right after Prison Witch. So I'm gonna always be in a state of launching, producing, and fulfilling.
That's a beautiful thing if you can do it. I like to always be in a state of calm,
Yeah.
because I haven't figured out that yet. So what I try to do is forgive myself as I try to get there. But I think it's amazing that you have set up this machinery, and we should probably get into that after we get into the campaign that you are actually launching right now. It's kind of a companion piece to Cheeky. So let's hear about Steamy. I'll pull up the page while you kind of talk about what Steamy is and what it is not.
Sure. Steamy is a collection of stories about love and sex that stand alone, and then in the end, they overlap in fun and exciting ways. It is much in the same format as Thirsty and Cheeky, where these stories can be enjoyed by themselves or together. There are characters from both Thirsty and Cheeky, sorry, baby, in Steamy. So if you have read those, you can continue on to this. But it does stand alone. It is completely satisfying by itself. It takes a character-driven, funny, and emotional look at sex. All the different kinds of stories and experiences that we have with sex, sexuality. It takes a shameless approach.
Mhm.
I feel like the comics industry has kind of been puritanical for a long time. I'm done with that. I find that there's all these horror stories, superhero stories. I find stories about sex and love a lot more universal than stories about murder and wearing tights.
But,
So
but I'm assuming somebody could wear tights in Steamy though.
they could. I don't know if they do, but they could.
Not for long.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, I always tell this story that when I first started out in comics, I was quickly hired by Zenescope, a publisher known for both an interconnected fairy tale based public domain horror fantasy universe, and also known for their sexy covers. I was
Mhm.
hired by them as staff writer for years, and the my peers in the comics industry often mistakenly assumed that I was writing porn and kind of looked down at me for it. So my thought was always, all right, so I'm being demonized for something that I'm not even doing. How about I actually do it and write it better than any of their books? So that was my idea with well, first Thirsty, then Cheek,
Mhm.
Steamy, and my wife Amy came on to collaborate with me. So we're co-writing these together, and this is the third installment in the series.
Yeah. No, I've read Thirsty. I haven't read Cheeky or Steamy. What I was impressed by the story is it's unapologetically sexual, it's unapologetically erotic, but there were full-on stories happening in and around the sex. But I do want people to know this is, like you said, unapologetically, shamelessly a book
Yeah.
with sex. So if we're on your Facebook and you're at work and you don't want to hear words like sex and other things that might come around it, maybe mute us, because we're going to get into it without shame, as the Hustler store says, something like what's the big deal, it's just sex. So just that is your warning. If you're listening to the podcast or watching us on Facebook, we might get into some things, but really honestly, as a reader, I appreciate books that tell you what they are and deliver what they tell you they're going to deliver. And if it's a drama, about two people talking in a diner, and that's what I know I'm coming into, great. But if I have a super sexy cover, like, the clean cover you have up on top that you just unlocked, if I'm buying a book with this cover, I kind of want to see some stuff inside that's sensual and sexual as well.
Right. Yeah. That was definitely that was our thought going into, is that we, and it's no shame to them. Zenoscope does it, and they do it very well. They do pinup covers where they'll have their character in like a sexy costume, or there's a nude variant, and then the interiors are, a not standard, but non-nude fantasy-based story.
Mhm.
But with Thirsty, we wanted it to be clear that we aren't doing that. We
Right.
want it to be known that it's about sex, because we wouldn't want people to buy it, open it up, and see some surprising shit.
Exactly.
So we put it all up front what it is, and it's been cool. It has sort of removed some of my hangups with how I've been perceived before.
Okay. So one thing, as a writer, I have not ventured into this type of writing, so I'm kind of wondering. Every scene has the characters, and it builds to a crescendo. And like I said, there is a story with this, which is cool. Do the characters inform for you and your wife what the sex might be, or are you interested in exploring a sexual fantasy in a story? Not necessarily fantasy for you, but a fantasy out there, and then you build characters around it. So kind of chicken or egg, which comes first in your vignettes?
You know what? It's a mixture of all that. How each volume starts is that I'll ask Amy, like, "Hey, do you have any ideas?" It could be based on um, one of your own fantasies, a character idea, something from your past, from our past and present together, and just build from there. And then if we don't find anything there, we'll also mine for experiences. Like, for example, this one that you're coming to, below that, alone, is based on the idea of what happens to someone who is an adult who gets into a relationship where it's been his only sexual partnership, and then that relationship ends, and this innocent guy who is a bit older than the normal level of experience that he has is out there in the world trying to date. So that's that. And the one above it, just it is a lot more like of a light idea, like this one, no mattresses, right? That one came about when Amy and I we ordered a mattress from Bob's Discount Furniture. Shout out to those bastards, dude.
Yeah.
Uh, they delivered us a king size mattress and a queen size frame,
Oh, Jesus.
and they couldn't leave it because the mattress is so heavy it would crush the frame. So we were left for days with no mattress. We got a hotel. So this story put these two characters in two different bad days as they deal with this, and then come together in a place where there is literally no mattress. And then this ties in to their arc in the end, which is brings back a character from the past of Thirsty for a bit of an exhibitionist romp.
Okay.
So
All
yeah,
right.
I always think about that, like life experience, ideas for characters to kind of mine the relationship of the human experience and the sexual experience, and explore that in interesting ways, even if they aren't our own POV. And also, I look at what we've done before, and how to bring in characters and create ties to past stories, ties in this. Like, for example, the tie in Thirsty was that the characters in the end, they come together in this this kind of Uber-esque situation. It's a ride-sharing app where they go in, and this app in the car reads their phone's history and sort of acts as a sex therapist to people by analyzing their phone searches. In Thirsty, in Cheeky, more simple. It all came together at a big booty contest. And in Steamy, it all comes together at this couples retreat at a hotel. So during the story, you see some of the characters who will end up there, seeing an ad for it. You'll see the clerks at the hotel get their own story. And then as people begin to come to the hotel early on, we see their arcs, and then it all comes together, climaxes in the final epilogue, which brings them together at that retreat.
No, that's a great idea. You talking about doing this with your wife. I wonder if there, I want to ask, are there, obviously you're comfortable being intimate with your wife. So obviously that probably opens up a level of honesty and openness that you might not have with another writer. But also, could it cause some problems? So as you're writing these stories, do you talk out, like almost like safe words? Do you communicate before you start to write on how this will be great for the book and not a negative that come up in your relationship, or is it just a plus?
No, yeah, I mean, it's been easy for us as far as that goes. What I do is, because my end of it is, I've been writing comics for a long time. Amy will come into play when we're plotting it out. So I'll ask her for ideas, and she'll write down just a bunch. I'll format that into stories and see how it can tie together, and then I'll break each story down into pages, panelize them, and then I'll print each one out, and I'll give them along with the art to Amy to add her portion of dialogue, and then she'll do mine. So what I'll do is, while I'm doing that panel writing phase, I'll just say stuff like, hey, how would you want this character from this story to look? And I'll put in some of her ideas, I'll put in some of mine. But we're very open as far as that kind of stuff goes too. We leave a lot to the artist, and that actually has been a conversation in editorial recently too, because we found that obviously in Cheeky, with the topic being a big booty contest, there was a theme of big butts. Now in Steamy, we began to notice that, because the artists aren't kind of coordinating together, we're all just hiring them at the same time, and they're all working at the same time. Right. We noticed a trend where a lot of the characters had larger chests. So Steamy became kind of a boob themed book. So retroactively, we kind of looked at what had been done and coached a few artists to kind of pull back on the cups, so like that kind of thing, just, I mean, very casual. It's contrary to what people might think, it's one of the easier books to make.
Okay. I think of, I don't want to use the P word for your book, but when I think of
pussy
pornographic movies,
okay.
I think of them almost made in the same way that an action movie is made. And in that,
let's hear it.
I'm not the first one. I've heard this. Like every 5 to 10 minutes in an action movie, you need to get to a fight or an explosion. And in a porno movie, it could be a fight and it could be an explosion, but it's a very specific explosion. You've got to get to every 5 to 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I know that with your vignettes, just from the one I read, you get to it. Is there a part of you that wants to make sure you're pushing past what you've done before, or are you super happy to just find what is sexy and sensual in that story? It doesn't matter if it's something that's been done before in one of your books.
It doesn't matter if it's been done before. I mean, I feel like I would catch it in the plot phase if it was too done, I mean, like for example, we have our character Penn, who is kind of the through line here. She was the only friends content creator in Thirsty. She gets a small appearance at the booty contest in Cheeky, and she gets a full dedicated story in Steamy, and we'll be launching a spinoff for her as well. She is the content creator, so we wouldn't have another character doing that, because that's kind of been done. So that kind of thing takes care of itself in the discussions of the plot. Like for example, we did have one story here where I asked him, I was like, hey, is this too similar to this story? And if we think that, then we'll just kind of work against that as we plot. But yeah, I mean, what keeps it fresh is just the concept. The concept being that when you're watching porn where it has a story element, generally the story leads up to the sex begins, and that's the end.
Mm-hmm.
The sex is the goal of the story. The story exists to get to the sex.
Right.
With our books, we didn't want that. We wanted the sex to be part of it, not the goal of the story, or not even the climax of every story. Like, for example, with Penn, in both Penn stories, the one in Thirsty and now the one in Steamy, there are scenes of her in Thirsty having sex for her OnlyFriends account, and in Steamy with her boyfriend throughout. And the arcs aren't about the sex. The arc in Thirsty is about her discovering that creating a genuine connection with a person makes better content for her. And then in Steamy, the arc is more about how she and her boyfriend interact with the comments coming in when they take a more negative turn.
Oh, okay. All right. That's interesting. When I was looking down the page, I actually recognized them, but it's been, 6-8 months since I read it. I'm like, I didn't know if it was a new one. So that's cool.
Yeah.
No, I think that it's really cool. I think what you do is exciting because you are kind of breaking a barrier even on Kickstarter that, is known for TNA covers and a couple of things, but having a very literate, very adult book, I've got Lost Girls on my bookshelf over there, which is Alan Moore's, unapologetic, and he used the word pornographic comic. And it is, comics can be absolutely anything. We are used to it being Batman and Superman stopping Lex Luthor. That's what we've been told our whole lives in America. But yeah, horror, romance, sexuality, it can be absolutely anything. And I appreciate that you're not really pushing any boundaries, but you're opening up people's eyes that we can have these things. Adults can have these things, and if you got a credit card, you're probably an adult.
Yeah, it's not weird to experience attraction, to experience sex, and it's treated in comics for a long time now as if it is. That there were in the 2010s, there were all these controversies over depictions of certain characters on sexier covers from Marvel. Zenoscope got some of it too, and I feel like I want to be part of ending that. I think that conversation was sort of hidden as a liberal talking point when in actuality it's a very conservative state of mind. And to me, that's washed. It's done, and I'm happy to be part of that.
Nice. Okay. All right. So one thing that we talked about at the very beginning, the fulfillment. So how did you build this machine where you can be creating, launching, fulfilling in a like always moving? Not like I feel like I do a circle of production, a circle of launching, a circle of fulfillment, and then I start over. I love the fact that you have this ability to do in this kind of infinite loop. So how did you build that for yourself, for me, and for someone who might be listening?
This time around, for the first time ever, I'm bringing on a team to help with fulfillment. I have guys that I grew up with who I'm bringing onto the team. I have some very forward-thinking creators who I also have who are local on Long Island who are joining in, and building a team, creating content, and also delivering constantly. That has definitely been a learning curve, but in the past I did it myself, but and here we have Smiley Chris in the comments here. Chris is one of the guys who is packing up Cheeky 14 Space Between. And we're moving, it's been a really fun process. it's made delivery into something that I can look forward to, as opposed to something that I'm trying to really get done. And it also makes it much more efficient. Cheeky is our biggest campaign ever by a huge stretch.
Mm-hmm.
And when it's done, which is this weekend, it'll be our quickest delivered ever as well, which I'm very proud of that. So it is one, bringing in other people to create a team. It's two, really just believing in myself and pushing myself, becoming a G, really, really doubling down on the idea that I can do this myself. Whatever a publisher has to offer, not only can I do it, for me, I can do it better. And I really believe that. And I think that Kickstarter is helping not only myself but creators. I mean, everyone saw what Terry Moore did. I will say that I helped build that campaign, run that campaign, and I'm very proud of seeing that one immensely succeed. We're seeing publishers like Black Mask and Vault are looking to us. They're looking to Kickstarter creators and seeing how we do this, seeing what we do, and that trust in the individual that we're fostering in both the community of creators and backers. The most important part for me is that I'm fostering it in myself. You know, I know that I can do this, and that belief, that I look at what publishers do and I go, it's not good enough. That I take upon myself as a duty to me and my backers, that I have to level up and fulfill.
That's nice. Chris put in the comments, always a cool time. Looking forward to tonight's stacking and packing.
Let's
and
go. Great.
When you're fulfilling it's such a solitary endeavor when you're fulfilling on your own. It's got to be just, you must be looking forward to going to fulfill now, as opposed to, I got to get this done so that I can get these out. And I mean, I love dropping the stuff off at the post office. I feel successful. I feel like I did the thing. Right. But, you know, sitting there alone, alone packing stuff up, it must be more fun to do it.
It is. It is. In fact, I'm going to post in the comments here. This is a link to our vlog. We did this is part 1 of 2. It's our cheeky shipping vlog. If you want to check that out, anyone who's watching this, yeah, it's been cool. It's going to be a thing that we do every time now, you know, and yeah, it makes me look forward to packing more. I'm bringing team members to conventions now, so it makes me look forward to that more. It makes it all a more communal experience. And I you know, when I first got into comics, and you know, even until recently, I haven't felt too accepted by what I look at as the mainstream comics community. So my option is to build my own community.
Yeah. I mean, if you put the foot in the door and they don't let you in, just break the door down.
Right.
Yeah, and start messing with the walls and putting their drapery on fire. As far as I'm concerned, you talked about going on the shows, and I know you go to comic shows, and I'm blanking on the name of the sex shows. I don't want to Exotica.
Yeah. So
you've done Exotica. What is the experience with the people who come to your booth that might not be into the comic genre when they come up? Are they excited to see you? Are they confused? How do people treat you if they were not coming to see Pat Shand and pick up a comic?
Right. There's an element at a show like Exotica of people seeing the comics and having that, oh, what's this moment? Because there was an author there. We were the only comics publisher there. And that I found is helpful. You know, it's helpful to find people who are intrigued, who don't really know what it is yet, so you can kind of have a fresh slate and explain to them. I'm not competing with any other creators there. I'm not. I mean, who I'm competing with is the girl across who is selling lap dances, the booth to the side who is selling paddles, and the booth to this side who is brazzers. You know, bro. I mean, it's totally it's a level playing field. You know, so yeah, it's helpful, and I find that the people of all the conventions that I go to, there's a mix of people, you know, like at a local convention, you're more likely to find people who have never heard of you. At a larger convention that has a few publishers, some you know, big city focus, I'm likely to find people who are Kickstarter backers and who are people who have found my stuff in comic shops. And then at a convention like Exotica, it's mostly new people to me who I haven't met before, but the vibe is very open. You know, people are eager to see new shit. They're eager to be surprised. Like they don't go to Exotica thinking, okay, I'm gonna get my. I mean, what would you get signed? You know, like they don't have they don't have like a preconceived plan, except maybe to like get in line with Angela White, take a picture with her, and tell her what their favorite video was.
Right.
But there's not like a people don't have they're not dragging a box of comics saying, oh, I need to get signed by so and so, so and so, and so and so. It's all about the experience there, and that experience-based convention going, man, it's cool to see as someone who's been doing just purely Comic Cons for so long, breaking out and doing a more a different focus has been super cool.
I did a rockabilly show once a long back. The person putting it on didn't feel like it was good enough to do a second one. But my thought was maybe 1 in 10 stopped to talk to us, but there was no. You didn't have to even push anybody who was going to buy. They were either going to buy the book because they were interested and it was cool, or they weren't, but there was no wondering if they were going to purchase. It was just if they thought they wanted it, the credit card came out. And it was kind of a cooler vibe in that way because there wasn't any, boy, I hope I can convince this person to grab this trade paperback in this comic. It was just,
right.
Well, you know what? I don't know if I'm going to like this, but give me those 4 things. And then they were, you know, they were cool and they left. And some people were like, this looks really cool. I don't read comics. Good luck. And they were gone, which is perfectly fine. It's the people who kind of pick it up and stand there for 15 minutes that you're, you know, trying to cajole into grabbing the book. And then it's not really fun for either you or the reader at that point when you've had to just convince them or you know, strong arm them into buying the book. So that's what I found, but I've never done anything like Exotica. So it's kind of cool to have that.
Yeah, I mean, I find it comparable to what you just said. In fact, man, I want to do, you know, the idea wasn't, you know, do sex positive conventions. The idea was to do conventions that are relevant to us that aren't just comics based. Like I would do horror conventions. What I wanted to do, which didn't really work out yet, we had this book Afterglow, which is about a girl and her giant cat in a post-apocalyptic world. Now, that to me would be cool to bring to a pet convention. But I mean, 1,500 for a table is kind of crazy to me for a pet convention. That's a pretty intense test. But one day, you know, I want to keep growing that way. Try new things that comics people aren't doing. Like I always want to be thinking outside the box in a way that still can reward what we do as far as, you know, the books, but expand from there and try new things. Like at Exotica, the book sold well. However, now I know next year I'm going to bring a lot more pins. I printed extra of, do I have it here? Yes. Our cheeked up pin. Let's see if you can see it. It says cheeked up, certified cheeked up. That pin felt relevant to a lot of the Congoers there that I saw, you know? And single issue comics. My boy Chris in the comments, he had an idea for I forget what it was called, but these little standees where it's a character who's printed on plastic who stands up as a little like print / display toy, I guess. It looks sick. So expand in ways like that, and try new things and go to these cons and like we did at Exotica, key into what people want, what they're getting, and go from there.
Cool. All right, Pat, I really appreciate you stopping with us. I told you I'd only take up a half hour of your time, and I think we're at that half hour. Always exciting to see you kicking ass. We are $1 away from 56,000
Oh, really?
Guys, $1 away. Come on. You know what? I think we can fix that. I think we can add $1 here in the show. $1 isn't going to change anything on your end or my end, but it's going to look so pretty. Oh no, maybe not with all the passwords. I thought I was in and ready to go. I'd love to make it pretty if I can.
We will get there today for sure. So anyone watching, check it out, please. Thank you for that. It's the link is here. If you want to see our vlog, posting vlog with the packing cheeky, that's in the chat over there. And Kevin, thanks for having me, man.
Hey, it's my pleasure, and you're at 56,000.
Hey, beautiful. Thank you.
That's the way we end a broadcast. Everybody have a great night. I will be back with Will and a couple other creators tomorrow night at 11. And as always, we appreciate everybody stop by in the comments. John and Chris, make sure you stretch. You want to be very flexible when you're packing up. We don't want any carpal tunnel, because I know you got about 1,300 packages to send out. So you have a great night, guys.